The unexpected visitor. It was a quiet night on Earth. Jason, an ordinary young man, was sitting in his small room. The lights from the city outside shone dimly through the window. He was tired from a long day at work, and he looked forward to some rest. His room was simple: a bed, a desk with a few books, and a small shelf with old souvenirs from his childhood. Nothing special, just a normal place where he felt safe. Suddenly, a strange noise came from the window. Jason froze and looked toward the sound. He didn't see anything at first, but then a soft shadow moved across the wall. It was quiet, but not natural, almost like a soft whisper or a faint rustling. His heart beat faster. He stood up slowly and walked toward the window. As he pulled back the curtain, he couldn't believe his eyes. There outside was a girl, but not like any girl he had ever seen before. She was small and delicate, with shimmering skin that glowed faintly in the dark. Her eyes were wide and scared, and her silver hair floated gently around her face. She looked lost, like she had nowhere to go. Before Jason could say anything, the girl suddenly moved. She stepped inside the room quietly, almost like a shadow. Jason reached out to stop her, but she didn't run away. Instead, she looked down, blushing softly. She was shy and nervous, her hands trembling as she tried to explain something in a strange language he couldn't understand. Jason took a deep breath and smiled gently. "It's okay," he said softly. "You're safe here." The girl's eyes lit up a little, but she still looked scared. Jason noticed the small crown on her head, barely visible under her silver hair. She was not an ordinary visitor. She was an alien princess, but shy and frightened. He asked, "What's your name?" But she didn't answer in words. Instead, she pointed at herself and whispered her name slowly. "Elira." Jason nodded. "Elira. Okay." He didn't know where she came from or why she was here, but he felt something in his heart. He wanted to protect her. As he offered her some water, he noticed her eyes watching the door nervously. "Are you hiding from someone?" he asked, quietly. Elira looked away and then nodded faintly. She whispered words that sounded like warnings. Jason didn't understand, but he could feel the fear in her voice. He decided to help. He told her, "Don't worry, I'll keep you safe." Just then, a loud noise came from outside the door. Jason's heart jumped. He slowly walked to the door and listened. Footsteps were coming closer. Someone was searching the house. Elira's hands shook, and she pressed herself against Jason. She was scared, but Jason stood tall. "We have to hide," he said. He led Elira to a small closet under the stairs. It was cramped but safe. He closed the door quietly and told her to stay. Still, the footsteps passed by their room slowly. Jason could hear voices outside, but he couldn't understand what they said. The tension was high. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, the footsteps moved away. Jason waited a few minutes before opening the closet door. Elira was pale but unharmed. She looked up at him with grateful eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Jason smiled softly. "We're not safe yet, but I won't let anything happen to you." He sat down on the floor and looked at Elira. "Tell me about your home," he said gently. Elira's eyes glistened with sadness. She took a deep breath and began to speak, in broken English. "My world, it is dying. My people need help. I run from bad men. They want to capture me." Jason listened carefully. He didn't know much about other worlds, but he understood one thing. Elira was in trouble, and she trusted him. "We will find a way," he promised. "You're not alone." The night grew deeper. Outside, the city lights flickered, but inside the small room, a strange bond began to grow between the shy alien princess and the simple human who didn't expect to find her there. For Jason, everything had changed in a single night. An unexpected visitor had entered his life, and now he was ready to face whatever came next. For Elira, and for the future of two worlds. Secrets behind the eyes, the morning sun filtered softly through the curtains, but Jason barely noticed. He was wide awake, sitting on the edge of his bed, thinking about the strange girl who had appeared the night before. Alira, the shy alien princess, had stayed hidden in the closet all night. Now she was watching him quietly from the corner of the room, her glowing eyes full of questions and fear. Jason wanted to help her. But how? He barely knew where to begin. He reached out slowly, offering a small smile. "Alira," he said softly, "can you tell me more about where you come from?" Alira's lips trembled. After a long pause, she nodded, then spoke in a soft voice. "My home. It was once a great empire. My people, strong and proud. But now," her voice cracked, and tears welled in her eyes, "it falls. Enemies hunt us, they want to take the throne." Jason sat quietly, letting her words sink in. The room suddenly felt colder, as if the weight of her story was pressing down on him. He looked at her small frame, so fragile yet carrying the burden of an entire world's fate. "Why did you come here?" he asked gently. Alira swallowed hard. "To hide, to find help. The galaxy, it is cruel. No one trusts humans, but I had no choice. Only you can save me." Jason blinked, surprised. Humans were ordinary, no one special. How could he save a princess from a dying empire? Yet looking into her eyes, he saw something powerful. Hope. Then suddenly the silence was broken by a low hum outside the window. Jason's heart thumped wildly. He stood and looked out. A dark ship hovered just beyond the city, its lights scanning the buildings. "They're here," Alira whispered, stepping closer to him. "They came to find me." Jason's mind raced. He didn't know what kind of enemies these were, but he knew one thing. He had to protect Alira, no matter what. "We need a plan," he said, grabbing his phone. But there was no signal. "The ship must be blocking communications." Lyra's small hand touched his arm. "They use shadow tech. We can't call for help. We must hide." They moved quickly. Jason led her to a secret basement beneath his apartment, a place he rarely used. Dusty and dark, but hidden well enough to keep them safe. "Stay close," he said, lighting a small flashlight. As they settled into the cold shadows, Alira's shyness faded for a moment. She told Jason about her family, the royal line, the betrayal that shattered their peace, and the cruel warlords who wanted her dead. "My brother. He was taken. I escaped alone," she said, voice trembling. "If they catch me, they will, and the last hope of my people." Jason felt a mix of fear and determination. This was bigger than anything he had ever faced, but he could not turn away now. Then from above came a sudden pounding on the door. The enemies were close. Alira's eyes widened. "Hide!" she urged. They scrambled deeper into the basement's hidden corners. Jason's breath was loud in his ears. The door shook as heavy boots stomped outside. For what felt like hours, they stayed silent, waiting. Every sound seemed like the enemy searching for them. Finally, the pounding stopped. Jason peeked out carefully. The corridor was empty. They were safe, for now. But Alira looked at him with a serious face. "They will come back, stronger." Jason nodded. "Then we fight. Together." She smiled faintly. A shy, hopeful smile that made Jason feel something he never had before. In that quiet basement, two strangers from different worlds began to build a fragile trust. A trust that might just change the fate of the galaxy. But the dangers outside were growing, and the clock was ticking. Will Jason be ready when the enemy returns? Will Alira find the strength to face her past? Only time would tell. Hidden dangers, the cold basement felt like a prison. But to Jason and Alira, it was the only place that offered safety. Outside, the city bustled unknowingly, but above them, danger lurked. Jason could hear faint footsteps on the floor above and the distant hum of the alien ship still scanning the neighborhood. Lyra sat close to Jason, her glowing skin dim in the dark. Her small hands trembled, but her eyes held a quiet determination. "They will not stop," she whispered. "They hunt for the throne. For me." Jason clenched his fists. He was just a simple human, but now he felt the weight of a mission far greater than himself. We have to find a way out. Hiding forever isn't an option. Elira shook her head. No one trusts humans in the galaxy. If I go out, I will be captured, but here with you, maybe I can survive. Suddenly, a sharp noise cracked through the basement, a faint beep from Elira's necklace. Jason leaned closer, recognizing it as some kind of tracker. They are tracking you, Jason said, eyes wide. Elira nodded sadly. They never stop. My enemies are clever and cruel. Jason thought fast. We need to remove this. Elira hesitated. It is bound to me. If you remove it, it may hurt me. I don't care, Jason said firmly. We can't be caught. With trembling hands, he reached for the necklace. As he touched it, a sudden pulse of light shot through the room, and Elira gasped in pain. Jason almost pulled back, but he stayed calm. After a tense moment, the light faded. The necklace was now silent. Elira breathed heavily. Thank you, she whispered. But their relief was short-lived. From above, heavy footsteps approached quickly. This time, it wasn't just one person. Multiple enemies were searching for them. Jason grabbed a small metal rod nearby, ready to defend. The basement door shook violently. Get ready, Jason whispered to Elira. Then with a loud crash, the door splintered open. 3 dark figures stepped inside. Their armor was strange and alien, their eyes glowing red in the dim light. Elira's face drained of color, but she stepped forward, standing beside Jason. Leave now or face us, Jason said, voice steady. The leader laughed coldly. A human, protecting a princess? Pathetic. You don't understand the power you face. Elira's eyes flashed with a strange light, and suddenly she moved. In a blur, she grabbed the nearest attacker, pushing him hard against the wall. A pulse of energy from her hand sent him flying. The other 2 hesitated. Jason's heart pounded. He realized Elira was stronger than she looked, but this fight was dangerous. If they lost, it could mean death. As the attackers recovered, Jason lunged forward with the metal rod, striking one's leg. The alien stumbled but quickly recovered, pulling a weapon that crackled with blue energy. Jason barely dodged a blast that shattered part of the wall. Elira summoned more power, her hands glowing bright. Beams of light shot from her palms, hitting the attackers with force. The fight was fierce and fast. Finally, the enemies retreated, leaving the basement door broken and the room shaking. Jason collapsed, breathing hard. That was too close. Elira looked at him with gratitude and fear. You saved me. We saved each other, Jason said. But as they caught their breath, a new sound echoed from the basement entrance, a slow, mechanical click. They looked up to see a small device on the floor, blinking red. Another tracker, Elira said, and this one is stronger, Jason whispered. The danger was far from over. They needed a new plan. Fast. Jason helped Elira to her feet. We fight or we run. What do you want? Elira's eyes shone fiercely. I want to live, and I want to protect my people, Jason smiled. Then let's make them regret chasing us. In the shadows of the basement, 2 unlikely allies prepared to face an enemy that would stop at nothing, testing their courage, their strength, and the fragile trust that bound them. The galaxy was watching. And the story was only beginning. The bond strengthens. The days after the attack were tense and uncertain. Jason and Elira stayed hidden in the basement, the broken door patched as best as they could. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the battle unfolding beneath its streets. Elira no longer seemed as shy. She moved with more confidence, her glowing skin pulsing softly as if feeding on the small spark of hope growing inside her. Jason noticed how her eyes watched him more often, full of quiet trust, something she had never shown before. You saved me, Elira said one evening, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't know how to thank you. Jason smiled. You don't have to. We're in this together. Over the next days, Elira taught Jason about her world, the history of her empire, the cruel betrayal by those who wanted power, and the secret she carried inside her, a gift that could change everything. She called it the light of the stars, a power rare and dangerous if I use it, she explained carefully. It will show them where I am, but if I don't, my people may be lost forever. Jason listened, heart pounding. This was no ordinary princess. She carried the future of her people in her hands. One night, as they sat together, Jason noticed Elira staring at a small holographic map projected from a device she had hidden in her dress. It showed distant stars and glowing points, her homeworld and nearby threats. "They're closing in," she said, voice tight. "The warlords send more hunters." Jason took her hand gently. "We won't let them take you." Their hands touched and a warmth spread through the room. For the first time, Elira smiled without fear, but their moment of peace shattered suddenly. A low rumble shook the building. The lights flickered and the basement door exploded inward. Outside, dozens of armed enemies poured into the room, their weapons raised and ready. "It's a trap," Jason shouted, pulling Elira close. Elira's eyes glowed fiercely and the light of the stars began to pulse from her palms. Beams of pure energy shot at the attackers, scattering them with thunderous force. Jason fought beside her, using whatever he could find, broken pipes, metal rods, anything to defend. The battle was brutal and chaotic. Just when they thought they might lose, a bright flash filled the room. From the broken ceiling, a massive ship hovered, blasting the enemy forces with powerful lasers. The attackers screamed and fled. Jason and Elira looked up to see a fleet of alien ships descending, led by a mysterious figure, Elira's brother, rumored lost but now leading a rescue. Elira's eyes filled with tears of hope and relief. "My family. They came for me." Jason smiled, but his heart was heavy. This was only the beginning. As the fleet landed, Elira turned to Jason. "Thank you. Without you, I would have died." Jason shook his head. "We saved each other. Now the real fight begins." The bond between them had grown into something powerful, stronger than fear, stronger than danger. But the galaxy held many secrets, and not all of them were ready for the truth. Will Elira reclaim her throne? Will Jason stand by her side as the war unfolds? The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Their story was far from over. The chase begins. The city was no longer safe. After the rescue fleet arrived, Jason and Elira barely had time to breathe before danger struck again. The warlords' forces had sent their fastest hunters, relentless and cruel. They hunted the shy, alien princess and her human protector like prey. Elira's heart raced as they moved through the narrow streets under the cover of darkness. Jason was close behind, his breath heavy, muscles aching, but his resolve unbroken. He had promised to protect her, no matter the cost. "They're close," Elira whispered, glancing over her shoulder. "They can sense my power." Jason tightened his grip on her hand. "We won't let them catch us." Suddenly, a shadow burst from an alleyway ahead, a tall, armored figure blocking their path. His red eyes gleamed in the moonlight, and his voice was cold and mocking. "You can't run from the Empire's wrath, Princess." Elira stepped forward, her glowing hands pulsing with energy. "Leave us alone, or face the consequences." The hunter laughed, drawing a weapon that crackled, with dark energy. "Let's see if you can fight." The fight began with a roar. Elira's light clashed against the hunter's dark blasts, filling the alley with bursts of color and sound. Jason stayed close, ready to jump in. But the hunter was fast, stronger than any foe they had faced before. As the battle raged, more hunters appeared, cutting off escape routes and surrounding them. "We're trapped," Jason shouted. Elira's eyes flashed. She reached deep inside, calling on the light of the stars. A brilliant glow surrounded her, blinding their enemies. "Run!" she urged. They sprinted through the maze of streets, dodging laser fire and leaping over obstacles. Jason's heart pounded. Every second could be their last. At one point, Elira stumbled, exhausted from using her power. Jason caught her just in time. "You're stronger than you think," he said, steadying her. She smiled weakly. "With you, I am." But the hunters were closing fast. Then Jason spotted a narrow passage, a forgotten tunnel beneath the city, covered by rubble, but still passable. "This way," he shouted. They ducked into the tunnel, darkness swallowing them. Footsteps thundered behind, but the hunters hesitated, unwilling to follow into the unknown. Inside the tunnel, the air was thick and cold. Jason and Elira moved quickly but cautiously, the silence broken only by their breathing. "How long until they find us?" Elira asked, voice trembling. "Not long," Jason said grimly. "We need allies." Elira nodded. "My brother's fleet will help, but they are too far." Suddenly, a soft light glowed ahead. Jason and Elira reached a small underground chamber where a group of rebels awaited, warriors loyal to Elira's cause, hidden from the Empire. "We heard your call," said a tall woman with fierce eyes. "We will fight with you." Relief washed over Elira's face. "Thank you. We need all the strength we can get." Jason looked around at the rebels. Ordinary beings risking everything for a princess and a future. The chase was far from over. But now, with allies by their side, Jason and Elira prepared for the battle that could change the fate of many worlds. Outside, the warlords gathered forces for a final strike. Inside the tunnel, hope burned brighter than ever, and the story of the shy alien princess and her human protector raced forward, faster, fiercer, and impossible to stop. The sacrifice, the rebel camp was alive with whispers and tension. Jason watched Elira as she stood before the gathered warriors, her eyes no longer shy but fierce with determination. The princess who once hid in his room was now a leader ready to fight for her people's future. But Jason knew the cost of this battle. The warlords would not give up easily. One evening, as the camp settled under the dark sky, a sudden alarm shattered the quiet. Scouts reported that the enemy had found their location. An army was marching faster than anyone expected. Elira's face tightened. "We must prepare," she said, voice steady but laced with fear. "What can we do?" Jason asked. "We're outnumbered." Elira looked at him, eyes glowing softly. "There is one way, but it is dangerous." "Tell me," Jason said without hesitation. "I have a power," she whispered. "The light of the stars. It can destroy the warlords' army, but it will drain me completely. I may not survive." Jason's heart clenched. "There has to be another way." Elira shook her head. "This is the only chance. If I don't use it, my people will be lost forever." The night before the battle, Jason stayed by her side. He held her hand, silently promising that no matter what happened, he would not leave her. Dawn broke with a crimson sky. Elira stood at the camp's edge, radiant with power. Her hands glowed like twin suns, light swirling around her in a fierce storm. The warlord's army marched closer, dark and endless. Jason stood with the rebels, watching in awe and fear. Then, Elira raised her hands and shouted, "For my people, for hope." A blinding wave of light burst forth, washing over the battlefield. The warlord soldiers screamed as the energy engulfed them, their weapons melting and their numbers falling. But with every pulse, Elira's strength faded. Her knees buckled, and Jason rushed to catch her. "You're incredible," he whispered, tears in his eyes. Elira smiled weakly. "This is my gift." As the light faded, the battlefield was silent. The warlord's army was defeated, but Elira lay pale in Jason's arms, her power spent. "You saved us all," Jason said, holding her close. She opened her eyes one last time. "Promise me, you will protect the future." "I promise," Jason vowed. Then her eyes closed forever. The rebels mourned their princess, but Jason knew her spirit lived on. In him, and in the hope she had given the galaxy. Her sacrifice was not the end, but a new beginning. Jason stood taller, ready to carry her legacy forward. The shy alien princess who once entered his room had changed his life, and the fate of many worlds, forever. New beginnings, the galaxy held its breath. Elira's light had faded, but her sacrifice sparked a fire no enemy could extinguish. Jason stood before the rebel army, no longer the quiet human from a small room, but a leader forged by loss and hope. The warlord's forces were scattered but not defeated. They gathered strength for one final assault, a battle that would decide the fate of entire star systems. Jason looked at the rebels around him. Their faces showed exhaustion, but also fierce determination. They fought not just for Elira's memory, but for a future where fear did not rule. Today, Jason began, voice steady and strong, we fight for her, for those who can't fight anymore, for the galaxy that deserves peace. The crowd cheered, their spirits lifted. But beneath the hope was the weight of uncertainty. Jason knew the enemy was clever, ruthless, and would not hesitate to destroy everything to win. As the sun set, Jason and the rebels prepared their defenses on a rocky cliff overlooking the valley where the final battle would unfold. Hours later, the enemy arrived like a storm, machines clanking, weapons flashing, warriors screaming their war cries. Jason stood beside Elira's brother, the commander of the rescue fleet. They exchanged a glance filled with silent promises to protect what remained of their home. The battle was fierce, shaking the ground and sky. Amid the chaos, Jason saw an enemy commander break through their lines, aiming directly for the rebel base. Without hesitation, Jason charged, meeting the enemy in close combat. Blows were exchanged, each testing their strength and will. Just as Jason was pushed back, a familiar glow appeared. The light of the stars flickered in his hands. Elira's power, passed to him in her final moments, now burned within his soul. With a roar, Jason unleashed the energy, driving back the enemy commander and turning the tide of battle. The rebels rallied, pushing forward with renewed hope. As dawn broke, the warlord's army retreated, defeated and broken. Jason stood on the cliff looking to the stars. Elira's voice echoed softly in his mind. Protect the future. He smiled, knowing this was just the beginning. The shy alien princess who had once stumbled into his room had changed not only his life, but the fate of the galaxy. And now, Jason would carry her legacy as protector, leader, and hope for a new era. Their story was over, and yet a new chapter was ready to be written.